Mega-WUG event, Building Your Workfront Career, Learn from the Experts. We are so excited for this awesome content with this amazing powerhouse panel of subject matter experts for you guys here today. This event is being hosted by the Philly Workfront User Group. I am Jen Mancini, along with Kaylee Richard, my partner in crime. So we're excited, and let's jump right in. So first and foremost, many of you may have heard the term Mega-WUG. Just want to kind of level set and explain a little bit what that means. A Mega-WUG is a mega workfront user group. It really is a collaboration of all of our WUG chapters across the country. And if you can believe it, we have 13 chapters, and this number continues to grow. Take a look at the map. This is all of our current user group chapters. If there's a chapter here that's missing or you are interested in starting one, please reach out to Julie Wilson. She is running this program and would love to talk to you so you can learn a little bit more about it. Kaylee just put the link in the chat too that allows you to check out all the existing chapters and join. You do not need to live in that area to join a chapter, but they do have virtual and in-person events. And we would love to see this number, I don't know, Kaylee, maybe triple by the next year. So let's keep this conversation going. And let's jump into some housekeeping. So just to let everybody know, as most of our WUG events are recorded, if you are not comfortable being on a live conversation, that's completely fine. We are happy to provide the recording after this call, and we will be sending an email after this call with this meeting recording. I know a lot of you are excited about this topic, as we are. And again, we are hosting this event. We are the Workfront User Group of Philly. We're a community of passionate Adobe Workfront users who come together virtually as well as in person. Our goal always is to share best practices, learn, network, grow, evolve together, and all members are welcome. Whether you just signed into Workfront today to an advanced user who dreams about fusion scenarios, everyone is welcome to have a seat at the Philly Workfront User Group table. Again, some house rules. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these, but we do want to remind you that there is no self-promotion or pitching of any kind. That is not allowed. We also ask that you respect our members. Please do not reach out unless you have provided consent, as well as respect our privacy. A lot of the things that we may be talking about are confidential, and unless you have consent, please do not discuss outside of this call.
All right, well, without further ado, we can start jumping into the meat of the content today. So we'll start with just introducing ourselves a little bit. I know Jen already mentioned that we are the Philly Workfront User Group, but just a little bit more about us. My name is Kaylee Richard, and I currently work at Toll Brothers, which is a luxury home builder based out of Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. And I'm a marketing operations manager. So I am a Workfront admin, and I handle a lot of process implementations and process improvements across our department, along with automations, AI, all of that fun stuff. And I'll hand it over to Jen to tell us a little bit more about her.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Mancini. I am the Workfront Systems Application Owner at Aramark. I am a systems admin, and I, create workflows and fusion animations, and I'm all about process automation and efficiency.
All right, and then who you guys really all came to see today was not us, but our amazing panelists. So I'm just gonna run down the line here and have each of them give you a little bit of an intro about them. So we're just gonna ask you guys to tell us your name, where you're from, how long you've been using Workfront, and then what you're currently doing within the Workfront community. So I'm gonna start with you, Victoria.
And Kaylee's not giving herself enough credit there. She has some awesome AI scenarios that I'm sure everyone here would like to see. But I'm Victoria Sellers. I'm from the Philadelphia area, for those of you also joining the Philly WUG. I currently work at Accenture as a consultant doing Workfront implementations and optimizations. I've been doing Workfront for about 7 years. I also got my start at Workfront at Toll Brothers, like Kaylee. And I'm in the Champions program as well as a community advisor. I'll pass it over to Monique.
Thank you, Victoria. Hi, everybody. So I am Monique Evans. I'm from Baltimore, and I've run our DMV WUG, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia, not Department of Motor Vehicles. And I have been using Workfront for 11 years now, which is wild to say. And currently, I am not only the WUG leader, but also a champion and a community advisor. And I'm probably forgetting some other things, but you've seen my face around, and I continue to be around. So go for it, Scott.
All right. Thanks, Monique. So I'm Scott Moores. I'm with Krause Automation. And so we're a Workfront user, not in the normal way. So we use it to run our manufacturing operations. Not one bit of marketing comes out of our Workfront instance. So it runs our entire company from top to bottom in every department. And it's well ingrained, and everybody within the company uses it. And we just recently implemented sales into Workfront. So it's quite an experience that we've gone through. We've been in Workfront for 7 years. And I'm also a Workfront co-leader with my co-leader, Lexi. And so we do a great job, I think, in Michigan, as well as all the other WUGs. Also a champion for the non-marketing people. So I'm a Workfront champion, and I speak up loud and proud for those that don't use it for marketing, but of course support my marketing colleagues and keep the product managers on track as well. So I'm happy to be here to share the experiences, and looking forward to other conversations. So Joaquin, go for it.
Hey, thanks, Scott. My name is Joaquin Avinia. I am here in Denver by way of Minnesota. Came out here about 20 years ago. I am currently a Workfront implementation consultant through Mondo. Current client is Amazon Music, so I help users implement into Workfront, whether that's full scale, small teams, just want to do one or two things within the tool. I can help navigate them through that. I have a history of being in marketing for probably 30 years now. Now that I say it out loud, that's a long time. And made my way here as a graphic designer originally when I came into the industry. I am not a champion. I am not an experienced league person, but I am a co-WUG leader here in Colorado with my cohort, Kurt Jones. So you've probably seen him a bunch around the block when it comes to Workfront. So, yep, hi. Back to our Philly leaders.
Thank you, guys. And we're really excited to have each and every one of you, because all of you bring a different, unique perspective to this conversation,
Absolutely.
Whether you've worked in-house with consulting, non-marketing, and then all the experience that you have in the Workfront community. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and just start kicking off our conversation with our panelists. All right, Jen, go for it.
Awesome. So this question is going to go out to everybody. And because Scott is the first person I see, I'm going to have him kick it off. What about your role is most fulfilling to you? What gets you excited to start your workday?
Yeah, so for me, again, as I mentioned, we don't use Workfront in its traditional marketing way. So I'm always excited to talk to users about different ways in using the Workfront system. But on top of that, it's more about organizational structure and processes. So everything starts with a firm foundation in its organizational structure and process. Even when you talk AI, Workfront, no matter where it's at, if you don't have that structure, you can't really get very far with the tools. And so I'm always looking for ways to improve processes, implement technology to help those processes, and make users more efficient in their everyday work, whether it's in Workfront or AI or any other tools that we have in our company.
Awesome. Monique, you are underneath Scott. Do you want to continue the conversation?
Absolutely. I am a huge logic nerd, and if anyone's talked to me, you learn that very quickly. And I love the fact that people can come to me with their problems and I can kind of go back into the lab and figure out a cool, exciting, sometimes unorthodox way to solve it. And then afterwards get to see the smile on their face where they're like, oh my goodness, that just saved me so much time, right? Like I just love helping people. And I also love just getting my hands and trying to break things.
And I actually came to Monique with a problem this morning. So that is an accurate statement. Joaquin, what about you?
I find, well, sort of on the same note, I really love deconstructing processes. So hearing how people want to get from point A to point Z, and really seeing what their expectations are, and basically working that problem backwards to kind of see where our gaps and our structure are in. I like to joke that everything that we do is project management. If you bake a cake, that is project management. If you clean your roof, that is project management. So it's really just looking at the problem in sort of that scope and being able to kind of compartmentalize and break that down. And Workfront helps you do that. You can find a place in Workfront, whether you are manufacturing, whether it's sales, whether it's L&D, whatever you might be doing, there is some level of work management that's involved in that.
Awesome. Victoria, what about you?
Very similar to Monique, I get excited when other people get excited. So when someone brings me their reoccurring headache, their problem, and we start solutioning and they're like, yes, this is going to save me so much time. That's when I'm like, all right, this makes my day worth it. Or even things like automations and integrations, and it's how Workfront can be your source of truth and you can integrate over here and over there. And you don't even need to leave the tool. And they're like, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. That just makes my day.
Awesome.
All right, our next question. How has growing your Workfront skills and your relationship with Adobe impacted your career? And this one we're going to throw out to Monique and Joaquin. So we're going to start with Monique.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy that I get this question because I attribute all of my success to folks like you on the panel, people that are here just watching, the Adobe workforce and powerhouse that it is, so much so that I was able to kind of tap into my network when I was out looking for new opportunities, and so many people poured in, was like, have you seen this? What about this? So I feel like, I give a lot in, but I get so much out of all of you as well. And as far as like actual skills, because I'm sure everyone's like, no, give me the details, right? So I would say everything that you do as you're looking into it, really analyze what you're doing. Like if you're coming up with the strategy of how something should work, that's a skill. If you're analyzing the reports and like understanding what the data is, that's a skill. The amount of people that can't read a chart is unfathomable to me, but it's out there. So the fact that you can look at a pie chart or a bar graph and understand exactly what it's saying, that's a skill, and you need to like harness that and promote it and tell people about it. But I'm gonna let Joaquin talk before I steal everything he's about to say.
almost did it. Yeah, got to give me something to share here. What I think has been really helpful is, so I sort of come from it with the philosophy, yes, and. So I will see somebody do something, and then I will say, what more can we do with that? Or how more can we push this before we actually fully break it? And what's really nice about that perspective is going to the Adobe community on Exchange to see what other people are testing the waters on and being able to bounce back that information. That community is probably the first community I've ever been introduced to where so many people share just what they've done and don't really feel like they're hiding anything from anybody. I've been in other situations where kind of people leave things a little bit close to their chest and don't really share. But that's really great when people do and kind of like take that knowledge base and try to expand on it and stuff. So it's really nice to see that collaborative spirit and people being truly active in it.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Those are great answers. Passing it back to you, Jen.
Okay. Okay, so this question goes to Scott and Victoria. What are your recommendations for any fellow workfronters out there who want to take their careers to the next level? Scott, we'll start with you.
Sounds good. I think the biggest thing that really helped myself in growing within Workfront is not to think of myself as a Workfront admin. To me, that's my task, but my role was to be a problem solver and really start to ask the questions and have the tool be a part of that solution, but also challenging the things and saying, what does that matter? Why are we doing this? What decisions is that going to support? That report going to support? What pain points are we really solving? When you start to get deeper into the issue, you start to show yourself as an expert in the process, and not just someone who's in the background making sure that things flow through the system and that users have rights and things like that. It's really starting to elevate in questioning and trying to help solve very simple business problems in a way that the software can help you do that.
I love that. Using that as a tool. I love that. Victoria, what about you?
Definitely echoing what Scott said. I think as Workfront, especially there's probably a lot of us that were system admins at some point, we get kind of locked into the mindset of we're just a system admin. We don't really have any say in the greater scheme of things in our organizations. But like Scott said, if we start to really reframe what we're doing as process, as you're the backbone of marketing technology, and especially if you are in Adobe shop, you've seen a lot of the recent webinars, the panels at Summit saying Workfront is going to be the backbone of the whole tech stack, right? Like if you want to connect with AEM, if you want to connect with AEP, CDP, the list goes on. Everything has to flow through Workfront, and you're really going to be managing the processes from end to end. I also think as system admins, maybe a little bit less related to the career advice, but more so if you're just starting out in Workfront and want to level up your system admin game. Especially when I was first starting out with Workfront, I felt so afraid to get something wrong. So if I was doing a configuration, I'd want to make sure it was the best possible way to do something. And I think some of that momentum can be lost when you do it that way. So sometimes it's better just to keep going and know, all right, if I solution something and it's maybe not the best way, or I learn a better way later on, I can go back and fix things. Mm-hmm. And it's better to like keep the train rolling than it is to like get stuck and not make any forward progress.
I totally agree with you. It's everything. It's process evolving all the time and being okay with where you are right now. That's a great answer.
Even when I thought I got it right the first time, there's always something better to be learned in the community. So it's never done.
Yeah. Can I add one thing to this question?
Go for it.
It's not my question, but one thing that I hope that everyone does on this call, if you don't already have one, is start a Brad book. Make a folder in your Outlook or on your computer, and every time someone gives you like a thank you, this saves so much time, or anytime you do something that's just really awesome, even if no one sees it, pull all of those things, and that's going to help you tell your story, which is going to be the second part, is let people know where you want to go. One, tell your manager so they can help you and kind of direct you and give you stretch goals, but also tell the community, tell some other folks so that they can also kind of help you figure out where it is that you need to go. And if you don't have anyone to tap into, which is not true because you all have community, but you can look at just like what openings are out there, what skills are they looking for, which boxes do you not check, and then start developing those skills. Because that's honestly what I did so many years ago when I was like, I don't want to just be the Workfront person. I also want to do like marketing operations. I was like, what is that? So then you look into it and you start plugging in those holes that you don't have.
Yeah, love that. Start saving everything. And then when you have a bad day, you can go look at that too. And It makes you so happy.
Totally agree. All right, Kaylee, back to you.
All right. I really like this question. I think this one might be my favorite. So going out again to Monique and Joaquin, what are 1 or 2 recommendations for integrating AI into your professional toolbox? I'm going to start with you again, Monique, just because you mentioned you wanted to go beyond Workfront and be kind of more involved in the marketing operations world. And I think leaning into AI really helps with that. So
100%.
tell us more.
100%. Like, whether you like it or not, AI is here and it's a part of technology, and we all work in tech. So you kind of have to embrace it. You know, you can put your personal mindset aside and just do what you have to do because you kind of have to, similar to how we all treat like Excel, right? Although I love Excel, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I would say look into things like prompt writing, right? Like everyone has an assistant. There's so many out there, but the way that you write your prompt is going to give you very, very different results. And that's a very easy skill to kind of train yourself. And it's not something that's overly technical. It's something you can kind of jump into. So I would say go into prompt writing, and then Adobe and LinkedIn just teamed up together to make a course that if you don't know about it, go to Kaylee's LinkedIn because she posted about it yesterday. And you'll see the link there that you can take that class as well and just learn a little bit more about AI. But my 2 things is to learn how to write a good prompt, and then also just embrace it because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going to grab that link for you guys too and drop that in because it was a great course. I really hopped on it. Someone posted in our chat that it launched and I was like, say no less. I am jumping on this and watching this afternoon. All right, Joaquin, on to you.
Yeah, so I also agree with Monique that AI is here to stay, whether good, bad, or indifferent in regards to that, but it can be very useful to you to help eliminate some of those sort of mundane, heavy manual steps that you might be doing. So for me specifically, I also create training materials when I do implementation. So AI is a really great way to take all that knowledge and start building out those training tools for me rather than having to write those items for everybody. As well as you can feed AI, if you're working with an agent, you can feed the AI the things that you've done. So you might be able to tell them, like, this is how I approach this problem. This is how I kind of articulate this solution, all that kind of stuff. So when you come back to the agent to ask for advice on something or just bounce an idea off, they're kind of already using your intuition within that answer. So they're not coming out of left field, maybe hallucinating some weird Asana style problem solving for your Workfront when you should be doing what you did and are trying to build within that tool. So that's maybe the 2 things that I would focus on as 1, help it make your life a little bit easier, and 2, feed it information, train it on the way that you do things, and so that it can bounce that information back to you.
Thank you guys. Yeah, AI can do a lot, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in here too. In addition to using it in your professional toolkit, just with helping you with your job, when you're working with different teams and thinking about processes, like think about how you could help other teams use AI too, right? Like beyond just how you're using it to help you do your job and accelerate yourself, there's a lot of different use cases across different departments and teams where they can be using it too, and they're not thinking about it, but you're so into all the bits and pieces of everything that you can really help them advance as well. And I'm going to go to the next slide and see if this PowerPoint, okay, the PowerPoint like weirdly zoomed in, just fixed it. Okay, next question, go ahead, Jen.
Real quick, just to jump onto the AI, something else you can use AI for. About a year ago, I told AI my current role and what I was doing and asked AI to help me create a growth plan for 3 to 5 years. And what the amount of time that saved me in terms of just mapping things out that I might not have thought about. Definitely something I recommend doing. I'm still blown away with how it just like set the groundwork for me. So just wanted to share that. Okay, so Kaylee, you said the AI was your favorite question. This is my favorite question. So this one goes to Scott and Victoria. Looking back, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Victoria,
So-
look first.
Scott?
Oh, we both got stuck on who's going first. Do you want to go ahead, Scott?
No, go ahead. I went first
Okay.
last. Let you
Sounds good.
go.
I definitely think it's twofold. So in terms of Workfront, I wish I started using community resources sooner. We had a Workfront implementation. We didn't really have any consulting or any resources to help us out with it. And I think I was on the phone all the time with Adobe support trying to figure out like text mode or like how to do things, just not the way you're supposed to do things when you're implementing Workfront. Until I realized that this was pre-Adobe acquisition, like a whole breadth of resources and what was similar to Experience Leak at the time. And the best part about community was that people on there really understood my use cases, right? Some of our use cases aren't necessarily how you would use Workfront out of the box, but especially it's kind of funny joining Champions program. I got to meet some of these people that really like helped me so much at the start of my Workfront journey. Shout out to Sky Hansen, who probably gave me all the text mode in the world to get started. And if I'd only done that like a year or two sooner, started on these forums, started giving back to the community, I think I would have been able to get things done sooner. I also think just in terms of like career path, I didn't know this type of career was even out there like early on. In college, they don't really talk about marketing technology, especially if you are a marketing major. So just being open to different possibilities of where you can take your career and really looking outside of what's like tried and true and considered marketing, and seeing what other possibilities are out there. Over to you, Scott.
Yeah, thanks. For me, I would tell my younger self that to lean into uncomfortable opportunities early. We have an innate nature to be fully prepared before we go out in front of someone professionally, because we don't want to get shut down. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be gone into another direction. But putting yourself in that uncomfortable position, as a Workfront admin, you know the system. You know it. So leverage that and lean into those uncomfortable opportunities to show your expertise and show how you can improve the processes. Don't wait to become fully aligned and an expert in that situation to throw your ideas out there. I think you're only holding yourself back. And I know that happened in my career. I held myself back early in my career before I learned to speak up and jump in.
I love that. Love that answer. Does anyone else have anyone else on the panel? I know this question was for Scott and Victoria, but Monique, Joaquin, do you have any pieces of insight you might want to give or share?
Yeah, I'll jump in because I want to get in front of Monique before she steals everything I'm about to say. But it sort of echoes the idea of just don't be afraid of the system. The tool can be now overwhelming. There's a lot of product features that are been added to it, and for some of us who have been with it for 10 or so years, you kind of were there at the beginning. But again, oftentimes in that deconstruction kind of philosophy, you'll find that the simplest approach typically is your best approach. And so don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to like present ideas that are what might appear simplistic in terms of the solution. You'll actually find that your users will love that. The fewer clicks they have to go to, the fewer dashboards, the fewer reports that they kind of navigate through, they will actually love it a lot more. And from a system admin or a usability perspective, that's always key for adoption, is just making sure that people are comfortable with that. So don't be afraid of the tool, jump into it, find out where it does break, where it does bend, and you'll probably find that you'll be much happier in doing that.
Yeah, I would add just in a different direction, two things. One, there's a awesome book out there that's called Strengths Finder with an S. I think it's like Strengths Finder 2.0, but I read that over the pandemic. Well, I kind of browsed it and then took the class. But I was able to discover just a lot of innate skills and like things that I love and like what my passions are. And once, similar to what Lindsay just said in the chat, like once you start kind of seeing it, you're like, wait, no, I've been kind of leading myself into this direction all along, and then just fully give into that. And the other thing I would say is like, you know what you're passionate about, you know what you like to do and what you don't like to do. So like try, sometimes you're gonna have to say yes to a role that might not be fully where you see yourself going, and it might be more lateral than vertical, but you can use all of those. Luke, it's called Strengths Finder. I'll put it in the chat. But you can use all of those kind of skills and whatnot to then bridge and go back to where you're trying to get to.
I love everyone's answer, so thank you guys.
All right, and then our last question's going out for everyone. If you could write a book about your career so far, what would the title be? And I'm also just going to go in the order of my screen. So Victoria, you can go first.
If I had to write a book, I think it would be The Power of Yes. My Workfront journey started not related to Workfront. I was giving a training that I said yes to for website content, and the training was pretty good. And back then, Workfront gave you like a booklet that said, hey, you're going to be implementing a new system. Here's all the roles you need. So I had given a good training. There was a trainer role, and they were like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yes. And then that started to become, hey, I liked doing training, but I also liked doing the configuration. I liked doing the process mapping. I liked all the things that were related to Workfront. And then I just kept leveling up, saying yes to more and more responsibilities with Workfront. That when I decided I wanted to branch out and further my career, I already had this niche skill set that I was able to take elsewhere. And it's funny how sometimes those little yeses and just taking on what doesn't seem like a big deal or that it could level up your career at a later date always has an effect. Like even just saying yes to doing different decks or documentation has always led me to bigger opportunities.
Love that.
I love that too.
Totally can relate also. All right, Scott, you're next.
I love this question, and I thought long and hard about it in the frame of this session. And I came up, so the book that I would write is From Chaos to Clarity, Building Better Work One Process at a Time, which is what my career has been really built on. And taking a lot of the, as I mentioned many times throughout this session, no matter what department it is, no matter what problem it is just taking it one process at a time, understanding the process, get the foundation of that process, and then looking at what we can do to simplify it, put it into automation, maybe even other simple processes that come out of it, whatever the case may be, but just kind of taking one thing at a time, and not, as a lot of people say, don't try to eat the elephant at one swallow, take it in little bites. And that's kind of what I've lived by. So that would be my book. I'll have to publish it someday for y'all.
Yes.
Love that. Love that. All right, next, Joaquin, you're up.
I think the title of the book that I would write would be called Wait, What is My Role Again? Because I think that pretty much at every step of my career, what I came in the door for was not what I ended up leaving with. And most of the times it was because I was voluntold to do something. I saw a gap missing someplace, and I just kind of like Monique, was just a sort of a geek about certain things, mostly process. As you heard, I came in as a graphic designer, and one of the first kind of jobs that I did was actually working for a catalog company, building out basically all the little images that you had in a catalog, and finding that there was some sort of inefficiency that could make this process a little bit easier. And if you remember Quark Express way back when, before InDesign took over the world, you could actually create within Quark Express, you could actually create templates they call them, I think they were called art templates again. So you could basically link your image to your copy to like other things and build that all in one chunk and put that in. And I was like, why not? Like, why not do that all the time when you're building something like that? And so as I moved through my career, I started seeing that sort of application of problem solving being useful to me, to the point where now I'm sort of in marketing operations. I'm helping people understand tools, and every little bit of exposure has helped me develop the language to speak to like my stakeholders, so people I'm working with. So I'm sort of able to meet them sort of at the place where they live. And so yes, even to this day, I don't think I know what my role is, but I do know that I like working wherever I am. I like enjoying whatever I'm doing. So.
Love that. I think all of us have found ourselves playing many different roles over our career, all related to Workfront, some capacity, and now we're here. Okay, and then last but certainly not least, Monique.
Yeah, I also thought long and hard about this title. Now, if you would have asked me what my memoir would be called, I got that all day. But this and what I landed on was, hey, what if we ... Because that's literally how I kind of approached every job and was kind of created jobs for myself. So, I started as a graphic designer. We didn't have project management at all. We didn't have traffic. We didn't have any of that. And I was just in a meeting and I was like, it'd probably be smart or ideal if someone was kind of looking at all of these before we got to it. And they're like, maybe. And then I would go do it while I'm doing my other job and prove it out. And then that would become my new job. So on and so forth, all the way to marketing operations, senior manager, which is a very nebulous title because similar to what Joaquin and Scott have said, it's just kind of doing all of the things, but it always came from me starting that sentence of like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, what if we did this? So that would be my title.
Love it.
I would read all of them. So
yes,
please start and let me know when they're going to be out.
You drop your Amazon link in the chat.
Yeah. So we have a ton of time here for Q&A, and we are opening up this to every person on the panel. So if you have a question that you would like to ask this awesome panel, please throw it in the chat. I know I have a few questions, and I can also kick us off. So one of the things I'm very curious about, team, is in terms of Adobe certifications. Is anyone on this panel certified? If you are certified, tell us what certification you have and if that has really helped you grow in your current role.
Yeah.
And whomever wants to chime in.
I'm just going to start talking because that's what I do. Yes, I am certified. As soon as certifications became a thing, I jumped in and did it, so much so that I had to retake that test not once, but twice because there was not renewal. So if anyone was at Summit, you heard me complain all about it, but I've finally have recertified my certifications so that I don't have to ever retake these tests over again. So yeah, Ross is very happy for me. But I have the project manager, the professional developer, and the expert developer. And now I'll be working on Fusion. But the other thing I wanted to add is a lot of folks have reached out to me when they are job hunting. And if you are, you can always reach out to me. There's a bunch of things and I'll just forward you as I see them. And they have said that before they were certified and after they were certified, they see a plethora of options. So it looks like a lot of companies, especially folks that aren't as familiar with like Workfront in our community and just know everybody by name, are truly looking for certifications in it to kind of prove out that you know what you're doing. So if you're on the fence, use that to tip you over.
Especially, I think the expert certification goes a long way too. And I also want to say, don't be afraid to fail the certifications.
Yes.
I know so many people have failed the expert certification their first time, and you could have been doing Workfront for 10 years since it was at task and still fail it just because they are tricky. And it's a little bit more not related necessarily to the day-to-day. It's more conceptual. But I think don't be afraid to fail it. The expert cert, especially for Workfront, is great for job hunting.
Yeah. And I would like to add on that, just the part about the fail is if you attend Summit, you get a chance to take the tests for free with your entrance fee. So that's a great place to possibly fail it and not have spent the expense to take the
Yes.
test. And you'll get a good insight of what the types of questions there are. So you can go back and study for the parts that maybe you were weak on. I want to toot my horn, though, at this point, because last year, not last summit, but the year before, I believe that was the first year that they instituted, I literally had an hour of free time between two sessions, and I just moseyed on up without studying, without anything, and I passed the expert exam for Workfront, but just walking in cold. So that, I think that's more about just my wanting to get into the tool and get my hands dirty, but that was definitely a good ego boost as well, to like be able to go in that first time and to pass it without really doing any testing. But the Fusion one that I'm preparing for, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So I'm going to probably be studying very hard for that test.
Joaquin, I'm also studying for the Fusion test, and somebody in one of the chats on Experience League about certifications dropped this like intense study guide. And instead of just reading through, because I can't just stare at the screen like that, I asked AI to do a scheduled task every morning to send me a piece of information from that study guide, teach me about it, and then give me a pop quiz. And it's been helping me keep up with it, because I feel like a lot
That's
of us
amazing.
don't find time in our day to study.
That's awesome.
That's
But
amazing.
one thing a morning, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah, sadly, I heard from Kurt that it really does take some hands-on
Yeah.
application to really kind of get
Yeah.
some of the questions. But yeah, I'm gonna try that. That sounds like a good plan.
So there was a question in the chat about what are your thoughts about best resources for learning Fusion? So I wanted to get anyone on the panel. Sounds like we have some Fusion experts, which is great. What do you recommend in terms of where to get resources to learn?
I can start. So I know there's some boot camp options out there. I haven't taken the more extensive Fusion training. I actually just started with what's on Experience League for free, and it like walks you through step by step creating some modules alongside your Fusion. And I was actually able to pass my Fusion certification after going through those a while back. I think hands-on keyboard though, and thinking, all right, I have this use case, I want to build it in Fusion. That's a lot of what I have found to be the most practical way to learn Fusion. I think sometimes when I'm following along with other people, I can't necessarily, I'm not putting my mind to it because it's not something that I'm trying to achieve. It's just something I'm trying to like recite. So just taking the basics and then doing your own is going to get you pretty far.
I would agree. And Victoria, I'm going to chime in too. Also, when you have a use case, Claude is very good for helping you walk through the scenarios, especially if you're a first-time Fusion user. I'm learning Fusion. I'm trying to teach myself Fusion, and having that specific Fusion scenario that you are trying to build to solve a problem is definitely a motivator and helps you learn it as well. And I'm sorry if I talked over someone, so sorry.
Yes, sorry. We used Make.com, which mimics Fusion. It's free for limited use, but it allowed us to get the basics, to understand the basics. We struggled for a while with the triggers, but that's improved from when we first started in Fusion. So we're getting a lot better at the triggers. We understood the triggers, but our triggers were just consuming so much space or time in our Fusion scenarios, but we've narrowed those down. But using Make.com is a good help. Yeah, AI has come a long way. There's actually, if you use OpenAI, there's a GPT for Fusion in Workfront, which works pretty well. We bounce a lot of things off of that also. But use your champions. That's what we're here for. All the champions are here to help and support, ask questions, and we'll help you through. Even sometimes getting started is the hardest part in getting through the scenarios. as you put them together. But there's plenty of Fusion champions out there that you can lean on.
Awesome.
Yeah, one thing I'll throw in real quick is also you can learn some programming languages. So I'm actually taking a Python course to just better understand when to use certain kind of modules and things like that. Because all of those skills, again, are going to add together and get you where you want to go.
Yeah, good point. I took a Python basic course and it helped clarify even just structure. So good point, Monique. I agree with that.
I see there's a couple questions in the chat, and I wanted to answer one of them. Was I think from Julie about if you're not a system admin, but you're more like a project manager or somebody that's sort of a support role, what could you do to kind of help, improve or expand your career within Workfront? And there, it's just really getting your processes or your work streams into the tool and really leveraging that tool to support what you do there. Ask your system admins to make you a group admin if they're not going to give you full system admin rights. Thereby, you can start creating templates, you can create reports for your teams, all those kinds of things, and start doing that for yourself. And really leverage that tool to kind of show. You can usually use it to run status meetings. You can show it to, if you're not a typical waterfall style work management, you can also kind of leverage boards and kind of the weird agile feature within Workfront to kind of show more of that agile experience there as well. And so just really get your hands into it. And then there is the certification for a project manager within Workfront. So you can leverage that knowledge to get at least that initial certification too as well. And then I think there was kind of a second question that was kind of a follow-up was if you are not a system admin but are looking for roles that have Workfront kind of associated to them, is really just look, obviously LinkedIn allows for a search. So if they have Workfront in there, or just in general, if you have to sidestep outside of Workfront, and I'm not going to say this out loud, but you can also use some other work management tools because they all sort of follow similar structure. So you can take your knowledge from those other work management tools to bring those back to Workfront and to leverage that tool. You're going to probably find Workfront has a little bit more expandability than some of the other ones, but that shouldn't limit you on like the experience that you can have within the tool itself.
Yeah, good call, Joaquin. And I think to kind of add to the whole project management pipeline, as someone that helped build a project management in-house team for my org, is there's resource manager careers, right? Like maybe you have project management, you also have like senior project manager, director of campaigns. There's so many growth opportunities there. So I would expand on just documentation of how your workflows are going and be able to celebrate any of those wins and have the visuals, but then also start branching out to like, how does this, if you're in marketing, how does this connect to the business units and how, or sales or whatever, and start kind of expanding your workflow to also touch theirs, to really just show that full life cycle of your company, and then use that as like your platform to then go out for like these director of campaign positions or things like that.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat. Actually, Scott, it's for you. Scott, have you implemented any AI tools in your Workfront environment? If so, how did you roll them out? And what use cases have you found? If not, do you have any plans to do so?
Yeah, thanks for the question. We've used a lot of the AI tools within the Workfront environment. So the AI assistant, we work with Project Health, that's programmed for us as well internally. And so we've been utilizing a lot of that. We recently, and I work with the AI engineers quite a bit behind the scenes, and we recently have the MCP connected through OpenAI at the moment, and we're testing intake, we're testing issue updates so that they can, the user can just key in the information and never have to log into Workfront. And so those are some of the things we're testing at the moment, because again, we don't we don't necessarily use this for marketing. So how can someone sit down at their desk, just type the instruction or the prompt in without ever having to log into Workfront, and it updates the whole situation for them within the Workfront system. I am experimenting with Claude. Claude is more the preferred from the Adobe engineers, and Claude does things a little bit differently than OpenAI does. And so from a Claude, and I saw another, I think, question in here about SharePoint and Office 365. And so we're going to be, in the future, is if we can get Claude approved in our company. OpenAI is already approved. We have enterprise agreement. So we're going to work on Claude next. If we can get that going, then we're going to look at integration in between Workfront and Office 365 without having to use Fusion. So today we use Fusion for that integration, but we're looking to see what can be done with Claude to do some of that in between, use it as an intermediary between Office 365 and Workfront.
Awesome. There is another question. Is there a space within Experience League where people can post solutions they've developed, automations that they've built? I know we have cookbooks, which are great, but I love seeing what other people have done. It sometimes sparks ideas for me and takes me down paths I haven't thought about before. Now, there are responses to this, but I would love to know what the panel has to say.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks end up writing perspectives when they have something like big that they want to share like that. So if you haven't looked in that section of Experience League, I highly recommend reading through theirs. And then also just start a post. I've done that many times over the years. So just like keep it targeted, because if not, you might not get any responses, as people tend to like lose creativity when the world is just too open. But there is something very specific of like, I don't know, campaign management or something like that, where you can say like, hey, who has created a solution for X, and give people a place to brag and kind of share. And then you can always meet up with them offline to talk more if they're interested. Is something that I would do.
Awesome. Another question here. This is a great question. They're all great questions, but I feel this one. How do you enforce support the process when leadership won't follow it? I'll follow my sword about following a process much to my detriment. So if anyone has any insight, it's tricky when I'm lucky to have leadership support, but I can only imagine when you don't. So any insight or guidance that you guys have to share?
Yeah, kick them all out. If they're not going to play, they don't get to come into our sandbox and get to have all the fun that we're having. No, but seriously, the best way that I found to get leadership to sort of get the buy-in or to support is to actually drive the data up to them. So work with your marketing managers, your VPs. They probably create reports they send up to their leadership that talks about the work that they're doing and how they're fulfilling on that work. And so if you can start generating those reports directly from Workfront and possibly use Data Connect as a product feature within Workfront to drive to like a visualization tool like Power BI or Tableau, this will only help to kind of support that the reason we have this data is because of the processes we've instilled in the system, and it works. We are showing that the clean data in is clean data out, and that they can actually see that stuff. Additionally, I would probably talk to those that are interested in resource management within your work streams. So that might be your traffic managers, that might be your hiring managers, that might even be like your creative department heads that are constantly looking at their resources, and show that they are working either at capacity or above capacity. Rarely do I see anybody below capacity, but most of the time it's at or above capacity. And then show how that work is being fulfilled and what you're accomplishing within the tool. So you can show things like turnover rate, hitting your SLAs, where your milestones are, all of those kind of things. So all of that data that you can get from the system and can surface and ladder up to your leadership will support that Workfront argument for lack of better words.
Yeah, I'll add to that and go to other routes because maybe it's not leadership, and it really is just the people just don't do it. From what I've seen over the years, is they're typically not saying no to you or to the system. They either are just not understanding what it is, why they should do it. They don't see a benefit to it, or it's not incorporated in their workflow. And by that, I mean, there's so many times I'm guilty of it myself where you build out this whole new thing and you're like, this is going to work beautifully and it's going to do this and that and the third, but you didn't bring the people along with it. So when you present it to them, they're a little confused, and a confused mind says no. It's just, that's the fact. So instead, what you want to do is kind of look at where they're at, look at what they're currently doing, how they approach it, and then feather that in. So maybe it's instead of sending an email, you're now going to upload it here, right? And just kind of really talk to them step by step of when this happens in your workflow, this is where you go and Workfront to make it happen. And you will most often, I'm not going to say always, but you will most often see a lot more success because now they're a part of it and they fully understand when they click the button, how to click the button, and that kind of confusion and scared mindset goes away.
Awesome. Well, Kaylee, we are up against time, and I know we still have a couple other things to chat about. So I'm going to pass the baton your way to close us out.
Yes, but we're not ending the conversation here.
Nope.
So join us over on Experience League, where you can continue this conversation. You can ask more questions. I tried to copy everyone's questions down that didn't get answered in today's chat. And I'll also grab the link to this and drop it in the chat as well. So come join us over on Experience League and continue to ask questions, and anyone can answer. So it doesn't just have to be our panelists, although we love our panelists' advice and answers to everything. But if you have any answers to everyone's questions, jump in, join the conversation, and let's all learn together. And then just a few quick wrap-up slides. We do have some upcoming Adobe Workfront events. This is how, we all continue to learn and grow in the system. We have some really awesome ones coming up in June and July. And then our skill exchange is coming up in August, and little shameless self promo, myself, Jen, and Monique are all going to have sessions this summer for the skill exchange. So that registration is going to be opening up on July 8th. So keep your eyes open for an email from Adobe about that, and hope to see you guys there. And then I know Jen mentioned it early on. If you're interested in starting a WUG chapter or being a co-leader, there's actually some chapters that are looking to backfill or staff up. So if maybe you're too intimidated with making a new chapter, but if you live in these areas and want to join somebody that's already running the ship, email Julie and reach out and start working in your WUG. And then just another thing you can do to get involved in the community, maybe you're not so much an on-camera person, you're more a behind-the-screen person, you can write perspective articles. Perspectives is a great place in Experience League to feature some content written by real Adobe users and to learn from each other. If you're interested, I think I also have a link to that. I can drop it in here to learn more about perspectives. And you can also reach out to Julie if you have questions or want to get involved. And then lastly, just because we're the Philly WUG, stay connected with our chapter. So you can join any other chapter as well if you're local to somewhere else, but we would also love to have you even if you are not from Philadelphia. So please join us, and we hope to have more fun, exciting events as the year goes on. And that was my speed round. I know we're 1 minute over, but thank you guys all so much. And major thank you to all of our panelists. This was an incredible conversation.
Absolutely.
And I don't think this will be our first or our last. I think we will have many more conversations in the Workfront community about career because everyone loves this topic. So Thank you guys all so much. And we'll see you over in Experience League.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.